It was a crisp April morning, the kind that promised hope and new beginnings. My name is Claire Bennett, and I was there for my younger sister Hannah's wedding. 3 weeks earlier, Hannah had called me, her voice brimming with excitement. "Claire, you're going to love him," she'd squealed over the phone, her words dripping with that mischievous spark I knew so well. "You'll meet him at the wedding. It's going to be a surprise you'll never forget." I'd laughed, imagining Hannah's flair for the dramatic. She'd always been the one to steal the spotlight, whether it was hogging the mic at karaoke or turning a family barbecue into her personal stage. I thought her mystery groom was just another one of her grand gestures. But as I stepped into the church, a heavy unease settled over me. The air was thick with the scent of white roses and the guests' expensive perfumes, but something felt wrong. My Aunt Linda fiddled with her earrings, avoiding my gaze. Uncle Tom studied the wedding program like it held the secrets of the universe. Whispers trailed me as I walked down the aisle, searching for a seat. Poor Claire. Does she have any idea? The words were soft like a breeze, but they twisted my stomach into knots. I didn't know what they meant, but the pity in their voices stung like a slap. I slid into a pew near the back, next to Mrs. Harper, our old neighbor who used to slip me candy when Mom wasn't looking. She squeezed my hand, her eyes soft and sad. "Claire, sweetheart," she murmured, "are you sure you want to be here today?" I opened my mouth to ask what she meant, but the organ roared to life, filling the church with a grand, sweeping melody. Everyone stood, and my heart pounded as I turned toward the altar. There in a sleek charcoal suit stood Michael, my Michael. The suit was the one we'd picked out together for our wedding, planned for next summer. His dark hair was combed back, just the way I loved, and he wore the gold cufflinks I'd given him for our 4th anniversary, engraved with his initials. My knees buckled and I gripped the pew to keep from falling. This wasn't happening. It had to be a nightmare. But it wasn't. The church door swung open and Hannah appeared, glowing in a white gown that shimmered like it cost more than my car. Her auburn hair was curled to perfection, her smile so radiant it could light up the whole town. She caught my eye as she started down the aisle on Dad's arm and gave me a playful wink, like we were in on some big fun secret. My mind reeled, memories crashing over me like a tidal wave. Michael's strange behavior over the past few months, canceling our date nights, taking calls in the garage, claiming work, was overwhelming. For weeks ago, he'd stood in my living room, hands in his pockets, avoiding my eyes. "Claire, we need to talk," he'd said, his voice flat. "I think we need a break. I need space to figure things out." I'd begged him to explain, tears streaming down my face. We'd been together for 6 years, engaged for a year. Our save-the-date cards were already sent, our venue booked. But he'd just shaken his head, mumbled something about needing time, and walked out. Now standing in that church, it all made sense. While I'd been crying myself to sleep, wondering what I'd done wrong, Michael had been planning a life with Hannah. Father Joseph began the ceremony, his voice warm and steady as he spoke about love, trust, and forever. Each word felt like a knife twisting in my chest. "If anyone has reason this marriage should not take place, speak now or forever hold your peace," he said. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. I felt every eye in the church on me, waiting for me to scream, to cry, to do something. My hands trembled, my throat burned, but I stayed silent, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst. "Hannah," Father Joseph said, "do you take Michael to be your husband?" "I do," Hannah said, her voice clear and confident, ringing through the church like a bell. Then she turned to the crowd, her smile sharp as glass. "And I want everyone to know," she said, pointing right at me, "I'm marrying the man who was meant for Claire. He chose me instead." The church erupted in gasps. Whispers turned into murmurs and phones came out, snapping pictures of the sister whose fiancé had just been stolen. A man in a gray suit stood to get a better look, his wife tugging at his sleeve. My face burned, my heart raced, and every part of me wanted to run, to scream, to tell the world what a liar Michael was. But instead I did something even I didn't expect. I stood, smoothed my navy dress, and walked toward the altar. The crowd went silent, the only sound my heels clicking on the stone floor. Michael's face went pale, his eyes wide with panic. Hannah's smirk faltered, just for a moment. "Congratulations," I said, my voice steady, carrying across the hushed church. "I hope you two find all the happiness you deserve." I leaned in, kissed Hannah's cheek, and gave Michael a polite nod. Then I turned and walked out, my head high, past rows of shocked faces. Behind me I heard murmurs, the rustle of dresses, the click of cameras. They didn't understand what they'd just seen, and neither did I, not fully. Outside, the spring air was cool, and birds sang in the maple trees lining the street. Mrs. Harper caught my arm as I passed. "Claire, honey, are you okay?" Her voice trembled with worry, her eyes searching mine. "I'm fine," I said, and to my surprise, I meant it. As I walked to my car, a strange calm settled over me. Not grief, not anger, but something colder, sharper, like a blade being honed. I knew Michael better than anyone. I knew the charm he used to pull you in, the way he could make you feel like the only person in the world one minute and worthless the next. Hannah thought she'd won a prize. She had no idea what she'd really taken. The drive home took 32 minutes. I counted every stoplight, every turn, every breath to keep myself from falling apart. When I reached my apartment, I sat in my car for 25 minutes, watching families walk their dogs in the park across the street. Their laughter so normal it felt like a different planet. My phone buzzed with texts, friends, cousins, even a coworker who'd heard the news. "Claire, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Call me." I turned my phone off and went inside, locking the door behind me. For 2 weeks I called in sick to work. My boss, Rachel, left voicemails, her voice gentle but concerned. "Claire, I heard about your family situation. Take as long as you need." I didn't correct her. I didn't want to explain that my sister had stolen my fiancé in front of 200 people. My fridge became my calendar. I moved a magnet from one day to the next, waiting for the pain to fade like everyone said it would. But it didn't. Instead, I felt hollow, like someone had carved out my heart and left an empty shell where Claire Bennett used to be. By the third week, texts flooded in. My college friend Sophie wrote, "Saw Hannah's wedding pics on Instagram. I'm here for you, Claire." My cousin Lily sent, "Mom told me what happened. Hannah's awful. Want to grab coffee?" I replied with short, polite messages. "Thanks, just need time." I didn't want their hugs or their outrage. I wanted to be alone to figure out what came next. Hannah's social media became my secret obsession. She posted a new profile picture. Her and Michael dancing at the reception, her arms around his neck, both of them laughing like they'd won the lottery. The caption read, "My forever begins now." It made my chest ache, but I couldn't stop scrolling. In one photo, Hannah's smile looked strained, her eyes shadowed with something I recognized, doubt. I'd worn that look too in the final months with Michael. One rainy night, I pulled out an old leather journal from my college days. Its pages were yellowed, filled with dreamy poems and sketches of a life I thought I'd have. Now I needed it for something else, facts. I sat at my kitchen table, a mug of tea gone cold, and wrote the date, May 30th. Then I started with a single line. Michael always hated when I had my own opinions. The memory hit me hard. Last Thanksgiving at his parents' house, I'd mentioned wanting a small wedding, maybe in a forest clearing. His jaw tightened, and later in the car he snapped, "You made me look like an idiot, Claire, like I don't get a say in our future." I'd apologized, confused, and he stayed silent for the hour-long drive home, his anger a heavy weight between us. I wrote about how he'd pushed my friends away. "They're so negative," he'd say, "always complaining about their lives. We don't need that." Slowly, I stopped seeing Sophie and Lily, canceling plans until their texts stopped coming. Then there was the money. We had separate accounts, but he'd question every purchase. $1.50 for drinks with Sophie? That's a bit much, don't you think? His voice was always so calm, like he was helping me, but it made me feel foolish, like I couldn't be trusted. Then I remembered his laptop. 5 months before the wedding, I'd seen a notification pop up while he was in the bathroom. The name was Emily Parker. Feeling guilty, I clicked and found emails hidden in a folder labeled Work Archives. They weren't about work. Emily had been Michael's girlfriend before me. In one email she wrote, "You're doing it again, Michael," making me feel crazy for having my own thoughts. "I'm done." His reply was cold. "If you can't handle a real relationship, that's your problem." Her final email was raw. "You made me doubt everything, my job, my friends, my own mind. That's not love. That's control. You'll destroy anyone who gets close to you." At the time, I'd closed the laptop, telling myself Emily was just bitter. Now her words felt like a warning I'd ignored. I kept writing, filling page after page with every red flag I'd missed. Every time Michael made me feel smaller than I was. Every moment he'd turned my confidence into doubt. A month after the wedding, I called Emily. I'd found her number in those emails and needed answers. "Claire," she said, her voice soft but heavy. "I'm so sorry. I knew he'd do this to someone else." We talked for hours. She told me how Michael had controlled her life, checking her texts, convincing her to quit her job because her boss was too flirty. "I thought he was protecting me," she said, "but he was isolating me." Then she dropped a bombshell. "There's something you don't know," she said. "Michael has a daughter, Ava, who's 7. She lives with her mom, Sarah, his ex-wife." "He never told you, did he?" My heart sank. "A daughter? How could I not know?" Emily sent me Sarah's number saying, "She tried to warn me too. Maybe she can help you." I called Sarah the next day. Her voice was tired but kind. "Michael kept Ava a secret from me for years," she said. "He said it was to protect her, but it was about control. He didn't want me having anything he couldn't manage." She sent me a photo of Ava, a little girl with Michael's hazel eyes, laughing on a playground slide. My chest tightened. Hannah didn't know about Ava, I was sure of it. But there was more. Sarah told me about a night she'd never forgotten. 2 years into our marriage, I found a box in his closet, letters, photos, even a restraining order from an ex-girlfriend named Jessica. She'd accused him of harassment, said he wouldn't let her go after their breakup. Sarah's voice shook. I confronted him and he laughed it off, said she was unstable. But I saw the truth in those letters. "He's dangerous, Claire. Be careful." 6 months after the wedding, something chilling happened. I was walking home from work one evening, the streets quiet under a gray sky. A man stepped out from an alley, his face half hidden by a hoodie. "You're Claire, right?" he said, his voice low. My heart raced. "Who are you?" I asked, stepping back. "Just someone who knows Michael," he said, his eyes glinting. "He's not done with you. Watch your back." Before I could respond, he turned and disappeared into the shadows. My hand shook as I hurried home, locking the door behind me. Who was he? A friend of Michael's? Someone he'd hired to scare me? The encounter left me rattled, but it also steeled my resolve. I wasn't just collecting evidence for Hannah. I was protecting myself. I started digging deeper, searching online for anything about Michael's past. I found a buried news article from 8 years ago. A restraining order filed by Jessica, the ex Sarah had mentioned. The details were vague, mentioning escalating behavior and fear for personal safety. I printed it out and added it to my green folder, now bulging with evidence. Emails from Emily, letters from Sarah, the therapist's note, and now this article. By fall, Hannah's social media posts were changing. The happy couple photos slowed to a trickle. In one picture from a charity gala, she held a wine glass so tightly her knuckles were white. Friends commented, "Hannah, you okay? You look exhausted." Her replies were forced. "Just busy living my best life." But I saw the truth in her eyes, fear, fatigue, a spark of doubt that was growing. One snowy January morning, I saw them at a cafe near my office. Hannah sat across from Michael, clutching her coffee mug like it was her only anchor. He leaned in, talking in that low, intense way I knew too well, his words sharp enough to cut. When he grabbed her wrist, she flinched but forced a smile. I stood outside, watching through the frosted window, my breath clouding the glass. I'd been in that seat, nodding to his suggestions, thanking him for his help, while he chipped away at my confidence. That night Hannah called. "Claire, it's me," she said, her voice small and shaky. "Can we meet? I miss you. I need to talk." I heard Michael in the background, asking who she was calling. "Just a client," she whispered before hanging up. I saved the voicemail and added it to my folder, my heart cold but steady. 8 months later, I got an unexpected visitor. I was at a bookstore browsing mystery novels when a woman approached me. She was older, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. "You're Claire Bennett, aren't you?" she said. "I'm Dr. Margaret Cole, a therapist. Sarah told me about you." My heart raced. "I shouldn't be doing this," she continued. "But I saw Michael last week with a young woman, your sister, I think." She looked trapped. "I've seen that look before with his other partners. He's dangerous, Claire. You need to act." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Dangerous. Sarah had said it, the stranger in the alley had hinted at it, and now Dr. Cole was confirming it. That night I pulled out my folder and spread its contents across my kitchen table. I found a voicemail from Jessica, Michael's ex from the restraining order. She called me 2 years ago, her voice urgent. Claire, you don't know me, but you need to get away from Michael. He's not who you think. I'd ignored it then, thinking she was just jealous. Now I listened again, her words echoing Dr. Cole's warning. Then came another shock. Late one night, my phone pinged with an anonymous email. No subject line. It was a photo. Hannah, sitting in a car outside my apartment, her face pale and tear-streaked. The timestamp was from a week ago, 2 a.m. Someone was watching her, and me. My hands trembled as I saved the photo. Was it Michael? The man from the alley? Or someone else entirely? I added it to my folder, my resolve hardening. A year after the wedding, I was ready. I put together a package, copies of every warning, every email, every letter, plus a note from me. You wanted my life, Hannah. Now you have it. Every single piece. I mailed it from a post office across town. No return address. That evening my phone lit up with Hannah's name. I let it ring. For 5 days she called relentlessly, sometimes 30 times a day. Then came a text at 3 a.m. Claire, I understand now. Please, I need you. I deleted it without replying. Months passed. Family gossip said Hannah had moved back with our parents, saying she needed time to think. Michael had let her go. But there were whispers of legal battles over money and assets. I felt nothing, no triumph, no pity. It was the ending I'd seen coming. By the second year I'd rebuilt my life. I got a promotion at my graphic design firm, moved to a bright apartment with a balcony overlooking the river, and reconnected with Sophie and Lily. I started dating Ethan, a kind architect who made me laugh and never questioned my choices. But Hannah's life was crumbling. At a family picnic, my cousin Grace pulled me aside. Have you seen Hannah? She's so quiet now, like she's afraid of her own shadow. I glanced across the yard. Hannah sat alone, picking at her food, her eyes darting to her phone every few seconds. Michael was nearby, charming our uncle with a story, but his gaze flicked to Hannah, watching her like a hawk. That winter, Hannah's friend Mia called, sobbing. Claire, Hannah's not allowed to see us anymore. Michael says we're bad for her. He took her credit cards, her car keys, everything. She tried to leave, but she has nothing. I listened, my heart cold. She chose him, Mia, I said. She knew what she was taking from me. Mia begged me to help, but I hung up, thinking of the package I'd sent. Hannah had the truth now. It was her move. Then came another twist. One evening I found a note slipped under my door. It was handwritten, the letters shaky. Claire, I know you hate me, but please help. He's watching me. I'm scared. It was signed Hannah. My heart raced. Was this real or another of her manipulations? I added the note to my folder, unsure what to believe. By the 3rd year, Hannah was a ghost of herself. At a family reunion, she stood by the dessert table, her once vibrant eyes dull, her frame frail. She'd cut her hair short, and her designer dresses were gone, replaced by plain jeans and a faded sweater. When she saw me, she froze, then started toward me, her steps hesitant. I turned away, joining a conversation with my cousins about vacation plans. For hours I felt her eyes on me, hovering at the edge of every group, too scared to approach. As the night ended, she cornered me by the coat rack. Claire, she whispered, her voice breaking. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in years. The confident, dazzling Hannah who'd humiliated me at her wedding was gone. This Hannah was haunted, her eyes carrying a weight that would never lift. What do you want to talk about? I asked, my voice steady. You knew, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. You knew what Michael was, and you let me marry him. You let me walk into that nightmare. I slipped on my coat, buttoning it slowly. You didn't ask me, Hannah. You took what you wanted. You stood in front of everyone and announced you'd stolen my fiancé. You wanted to hurt me. I thought I loved him, she said, her voice barely audible. I thought he loved me. Maybe you did, I said. Maybe he did, in his broken way. But you didn't want Michael. You wanted to prove you could take my life. And you did. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Claire. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't give me back the 6 years I spent with him. It doesn't erase standing in that church, watching you celebrate stealing my future. I opened the door, the night air cold against my face. You got my life, Hannah. Every single piece of it. I walked to my car, the gravel crunching under my feet. As I started the engine, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. The cold fury that had fueled me was gone, replaced by freedom. Hannah would carry her choices forever. Michael would find another victim because men like him always did. But I was done. I had a new life, friends, a job I loved, Ethan's warm smile waiting for me. A year later I was thriving. My design firm gave me a corner office and Ethan and I were planning a trip to Italy. But Hannah's life was still unraveling. At a family Christmas party she showed up alone, her eyes hollow. Mom whispered that she'd filed for divorce, but Michael was fighting it, claiming she owed him money. I stayed across the room watching her pick at her food, her hands shaking. Then one freezing February night my phone rang at 2 a.m. It was Hannah. "Claire, please," she sobbed. "I need your help. He's not letting me go. I found your package and I know you tried to warn me. But it's worse than you think. He's been following me. I think he's going to hurt me." Her voice broke, and I heard a door slam in the background. "He's here," she whispered, and the line went dead. My heart pounded. For the first time I felt a flicker of fear. Not just for Hannah but for myself. I called Sarah, Michael's ex-wife who'd become a friend. "Claire, you need to go to the police," she said. "He's done this before." Jessica ended up in the hospital after she tried to leave. I drove to the station that night, my folder in hand, and filed a report, handing over every piece of evidence I'd collected. The next day I met Hannah at a diner, far from Michael's reach. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, her hands trembling as she clutched her coffee. "He's been tracking my phone," she said. "He knows every move I make. I found cameras in the house, Claire." Cameras? I felt sick. This was worse than I'd imagined. With Sarah's help, we got Hannah a lawyer and a restraining order. The police arrested Michael a week later, finding evidence of stalking and harassment not just against Hannah, but against me too. Those anonymous emails, the man in the alley, all traced back to him. He'd been watching us both, obsessed with control even after Hannah left. As I drove home from the diner, the stars bright above, I felt lighter than I had in years. Hannah was safe, starting to rebuild her life with therapy and support. Michael was gone, facing charges that would keep him away for a long time. And me? I was free. I had Ethan, my friends, my career, and a future that was mine alone. The story was over and a new one was beginning. One filled with hope, strength, and the life I'd fought to reclaim.